Hey, I'm Bob Gursky from Smith County, Tennessee, and I'm mostly working in reclaimed materials such as wood, metal, tile, and today I'm going to show you how to build this shelf out of, well, I got the cedar from just laying down in the woods, and the shelf itself is some barn wood. And later, after the clip, I'll show you some stills of some of the other stuff we've made out of all sorts of reclaimed materials. I even have some pieces made out of granite. So stay tuned and watch the show, and then after it we'll see all the other stuff, and hope you enjoy it. I went out in the woods and got me some branches from some fallen cedars. Some of these have been sitting there about a year and they're pretty well dry. Most of the bark has fallen off. A couple of them I got, these are pretty green. The bark is still pretty thick, still wet on them. And the better kind to use is the dried ones. It's a whole lot easier to carve. You can help me. It's a whole lot easier to carve. These you really have to peel, wait a couple days, and then you can start carving. What I'm trying to do is pair up branches, so when you make your shelves, your shelf is actually going to sit right straight across these two branches, and the depth of your shelf is going to be determined by the width of the branches. And you need two of them, so you got to find two V's that are pretty close to each other. They don't have to be exact, but these two are close enough to actually make a shelf out of. You're not going to use the whole thing. You're actually going to trim it at certain points to put your shelf on. These here are a little different. One's wider than the other one, but you can tilt it so it still makes your shelf the same width. So it's sitting like one sitting here, one sitting here, but the back wall is going to be, they're both going to be against the back wall, and your shelf will run straight across the front of them. And the only thing you got to watch for is you really need a pretty straight back to the branch, like this one here. It's pretty flat where you can put that up against the wall. Now we're going to trim that flat to stay up against the wall. But you can take this one and see how it bends out and stuff. We can actually cut across here to make it lay flat against the wall. This is one of the green pieces we're going to be stripping the bark off of. I just use a dang 3-inch wood chisel. It's not really super sharp. I mean, I just use the grinder to sharpen it, but what you need to do is just shaving on it and peel. Doesn't matter if you ding it up, put notches in it, it just adds to the effect. It peels pretty easy. You just don't want to cut yourself. I like working with the dry ones better, but when you have slim pickings on the dry ones, the green works fine. Ones that have knots and stuff or branches have come out, leave those on. That makes it look even better. And you don't have to peel every bit of it off. I mean, just do whatever you have to do to peel it, but every bit of it doesn't have to come off. And it leaves a big mess, and here's one of the ones I've peeled the bark off of already. And it took about, I'd say, 10 minutes to get the bark off. When you're doing this project, you really don't want to use a green one and a dry one together, because they will give a totally different effect. This one's going to have a more burnished, darker look, This is still pretty green. It's going to have a really white look to it, if you can even see it. Even the colors from the green to the dried are, the dry is a whole lot darker. So just keep in mind, if you're going to make pairs of shelves, pairs of these, keep it either the dried or the green. I do almost all my carving with an angle grinder, which is an unusual piece of equipment for carving wood, but it works awesome. It makes everything look old. It makes stuff look like it's 100 years old. It burnishes the wood, and it does a pretty good job of making a awesome texture on it. Brand new, when you buy your bit, it's got a super square edge on it, and you don't want that square edge. You want the edge to have a rounded edge on it, so it doesn't just chew the wood to pieces. I'm going to round off this edge on a piece of steel on my workbench. Alright, the edge is fairly rounded, it'll work better. I'm going to start on the green one first and show you what it does. You need to just pull in one direction. If you go this way, it'll dig. This way, it carves good. When it's green, the wood stays real white, and you can see a little bit of indentations in it, but it'll mostly just stay a white color. And the cool thing about the grinder is the longer you hold it on the wood, it'll start to darken it up and make some cool texture to it. Of course, the finished product looks quite different from this, but this is just to show you how to do a little carving to it. I like the dried stuff a whole lot better. It does a lot nicer finish on it. It gets darker faster.
cuts in, starts burning the wood, gives it some texture, and then I like to do little burn marks on it as well. Little bird marks add a little effect to it. Off most of this one. This is one of the dried ones, and what you want to do is, this is the edge that's going to go against your wall, so you want to try to find a flat spot. Obviously that's not going to work, so you roll your piece of wood, you slide it back and forth on the table. If it's sitting real high over here, run it off the table. What I'll usually do is just mark it where I'm going to cut it, and you're just going to make a rough cut along that bottom. I'll mark it about right here, and I keep the wood long enough to carve it and you can still hang on to something when you're carving. And once you mark these two spots, I just go ahead and cut it with a saber saw. The cut doesn't have to be real accurate with the saber saw. And that makes it lay pretty flat. And then I take a marker and roll it along the edge. Where you want it to be flat. So basically you got a little shape of where it's going to be flat. And this point you can use either a belt sander to get it flat, or a power planer, which I'm going to use both. When it's bent pretty heavy, power planer works out a whole lot better. And this power planer is a piece of ancient history. It's a power craft from Montgomery Ward's. It's only electrocuted me twice. That lays pretty flat right there. Then to square up your shelf to the wall, put you a square up against it. And this will determine how deep your shelf is going to be. If you're going with a 10-inch piece of wood, you want to move this where this is going to fall under the 10 inches. Hold that flat. Mark across here. Take a little mark there. If you're going to cut this one, you're not going to cut that one. You're just going to have to eyeball this part. And then take the saber saw and cut this one. Plug it in. You need to save the piece you cut off. Alright, I'm going to put a clamp on this and hold this. I got my piece clamped down the flat side to the wall, and we made our cut. You put your square up against it. See how your cut did on the edge. It looks pretty good. And I got this old piece of barn wood. I use mostly reclaimed wood. This old piece of barn wood will look pretty good on here. Of course, I haven't used grinder on it yet. What you want to do is hold this piece up against there, run your square on it again, mark it on the wood on the bottom, and also on your barn wood. This is going to wrap around the corner, or wrap around this piece of wood instead of cutting it off. So you got to mark the edges and then get a height. You're going to cut into the barn wood 1.5 inches, 1 5/8 inches. So I'll mark that 1 5/8 inches. So I got 3 little marks, the 2 sides of the branch, the height of the branch, and of course the branch isn't square, so we're going to just round it and cut that out with the saber saw. Alright, I cut a round spot. We'll see if it fits on here. Yeah, it fits pretty good. You can have a little gap back there. Really doesn't matter. Hold your square up against it again and mark both sides of the branch. Where that's going to go, where that wood's going to be screwed on from the back side, and then this will be screwed right straight from the top. The piece that I cut off originally and said to save is actually this piece. I cut another piece off of that, stuck the two together so it looks like the branch is coming right through the top. And then for the center, it's not really support, it's a decorative piece, and it keeps it from, if you just had these two mounted on the wall, the shelf rocks back and forth. So putting this piece on stiffens the whole thing, and I just basically just carved a stick, laid it on here. It was a little long, I trimmed the top off, drilled a couple holes, and I'm going to put them on. This is from the back side so nobody can see the screw hole. Same for this one. There. That adds support plus a decorative touch to it. And then to finish off the tops and the bottoms, let me move this over. I just take my saber saw and just make a couple cuts on it to make it look rough. Same for the one on the back side. And then just touch it up with the grinder. Here, I'll hold it like this. Same for the bottom. Then all you have to do is cut your other piece for the other side exactly the same way. You only need one center brace. You don't need a center brace coming off each side. And then I'm going to set this here. And that's our finished product. This one was done with the green wood, so it comes out lighter, and then when you put a finish on it, it comes out a little more, oh, there's kind of a golden tint to it. But other than that, that's the only other option you can do. If it doesn't hit studs on the wall and it's a pretty heavy piece, just add a couple of L brackets wherever you can hit a stud in the wall, and that's what basically holds the shelf up. The rest will just set against the wall. That is it. You can do many different patterns with that angle grinder. This is cut with an angle grinder, a little more intricate, but these doors are from Habitat for Humanity, and I just get doors, carve them, and put a strap on the back, and it makes a cool wall hanging. And I got a couple more here. Here's one cut like a palm leaf. This one here's got a wave pattern. I did a whole kitchen in that, and this is a hickory doors. That was really hard to carve into the hickory, but it looks pretty cool. Just a couple chunks of cedar I glued together. I carved a wave pattern in that, and you could frame it out, use it for taxidermy, you know, put fish on it, just a leaf, overlay it with leaf patterns. I mean, there's a ton of different things you can do with the grinder.